In 2022, I read 54 books, and it's been by far one of the best years of my reading history. And in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 things that are relevant to this target and goal that I've achieved and how I celebrate it. So the first thing is the big insights I got out of reading all these books and how they really shaped who I am today. The first big insight that I have had by reading all these books that I read was that you have to start writing a book despite reading all these books that you read. Because learning is an active process, it's not passive, so it means that you should also think about output instead of input. So consuming all these books looks like a passive process of consuming material without giving something back. So for that reason, you have to think about what things you create from reading all these books. It's not just about reading and reading and reading without creating something or bringing about something positive. So to make sure that all the things that you read, they're not waste and they're not lost, so you have to write down your own insights and what you think of, so that by the passage of time you have your own philosophy or way of thinking, or a new pattern is being invented and discovered in you. So for that reason, it's really critical that you are thinking about writing down and putting out of your head all those insights that you have and jotting them down somewhere. So writing a book is a very important thing when it comes to learning, because when we're consuming material and they're just stacking somewhere in our heads and we never refer to them, we never use them, that's useless. The very important thing is that you really create something. You are giving some insights out of you. You're mixing all the material that you have in your head, all those thoughts, all those ideas, all those patterns, so they get together and they're creating something, and something that you give back to the world from all the books that you read. So reading is about creating, reading is about writing. So you have to be writing basically if you want to utilize and maximize the benefit that you get from reading all these books. Another big insight that I have had from reading all these books is that you should really read biographies and fiction. Well, fiction looks like something so useless to people because you say, like, what they have to do to my life. So I'll ask you that what those non-fictions, that there are facts and figures and statistics, they have to do with your life. Well, unless you read in your own profession, which kind of like is possible, the other facts and figures that you consume, they don't stick, that you forget about them very easily. But the main thing with reading is that it helps you to become a better decision maker. You are experiencing life from eyes of other people, and you wear their shoes and live life from their perspective, and you see how they made decisions so that you can use their thinking patterns, their ideologies, and their behavior and their attitudes in your own life. So that's the most big benefit from reading, apart from the facts and figures, because facts and figures, they're easily available on the Google, but what we are really lacking is no one can tell you how to make decisions. No one can tell you in a specific circumstance in your life how you should behave. But once you have read the biography of those great characters that you admire, and they have behaved in a certain way, so you can actually adapt their behavior, their thinking strategy, and their attitudes in your own life. Well, for that reason, I think that I will give more time to biographies and some fiction because it's not only enjoyable, but it also is very fruitful, and it brings with it lots of benefits. As part of the big insight that I got, I will just talk about 3 out of all the books that I read, and I will just be brief about it. The first book was Elon Musk by Vance Ashley, and the book was very amazing. Before reading this book, I couldn't really comprehend what this guy is about, and it was so vague to me. And I was like, what's going on there with this person? Until I read this book and I realized that if you really want to learn something, it's really about people and their thinking patterns. So I really love the character of this person. He's doing crazy things, he's doing amazing things, but deep down, one thing that's connected to this video is that as part of his personality and how he grew up, it was the fact that he was reading a lot. In his childhood, as he was saying himself, he would read so much that he was living in South Africa, and there at that time they didn't have lots of books. He finished all the books that he had available, and there was no other book that he could read, so he went on for encyclopedia and read that out of necessity because he had literally nothing else to read. But nowadays, lackage of the books is not a bottleneck resource. The new bottleneck resource is our attention and energy, and where we put it. Another lovely book that I recently finished was Meet Your Happy Chemicals by Loretta Graziano Bruni. This book really gave me a deep insight into the mind of human beings, that the chemicals working here, there's a whole big factory that's affecting and is defining our behavior and our decision making. Why we do certain things we do, what causes us to really love to do certain things and hate to do others. Outliers was another great title that I read, and it just gave me a very deep understanding of life is really about environment and about a lot of things that we don't have that much influence about. We as human beings sometimes get hyped and we think like, what is the difference between me and this guy who is a multi-billionaire and is on the Forbes list, but I have done nothing material with my life. You have not to blame yourself for that, because to a very, very high extent, what we are is not as a direct decision of ourselves, as is being praised by the self-growth industry, that they say, oh, it's all coming down to you literally. It's not literally, because your environment really affects who you are, who you become. And one such example I have is like this MMA ultimate champion who's now retired, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he said that if I was not born in Dagestan, I would become a pro football player. But now that I have burned here, you know what happened. So environment is really material, environment is really important, and it just gives us this thought as well that we can determine who we are by setting up our environment. Now this is very material in terms of like if we are parents or if you're coaching someone, if you're raising children at any point in time in our lives, we have to be very careful of the environment in which we are raising children. So you can never expect a genius coming out of an environment that totally discourages being smart, or you cannot expect an intellectual coming out of an environment where people really does not value knowledge that much. So if you really want to bring about extremely successful people who are going to be outliers, you have to set up the environment. And it applies to ourselves as well. It's not only like, okay, you are the last guy to blame always for certain behaviors that you did, but you have to just open your eyes and see that environment really matters. And environment really is important. It just really justified the thought to me that embrace myself despite the fact that I have done everything at my avail. But if I'm restricted and I don't have lots of things that I wanted to have, it's mainly because, to some extent, yes, I want to keep taking responsibility, but the environment really matters. You should be like taking it a little easy on yourself, because sometimes we human beings, especially the people who have this judging characteristic in their personality, they are really harsh to themselves, and that really ruins their chances for success or their passion for doing anything that they want to do in their lives. The second most important thing, I really cannot stop talking about the importance of tracking your reading. I really enjoy tracking my reading and comparing my performance on a daily basis, weekly basis, and monthly basis, and seeing that I read all these books, and when I'm looking back, and it's like it gives me a really good feeling about myself, and I really feel a lot of enjoyment from it. And I believe that if you are struggling with making a good habit of reading, so this is the way. Install this application. I've talked about in the previous videos as well. This is called Read More. It's totally free, and it's available in iOS and Android. Here you can see that I have read 54 books, and there is the number of pages. It's a whole lot of pages. I feel really good about myself when I see this figure. There's the amount of time that I have spent reading non-stop, continuously, 24/7, and this is a very nice figure for me to think of. For a whole year, out of 365 days, I've been spending this much days to read, day and night. And this is the speed at which I was reading. It's the, like, each page took me this much minute and seconds to finish on average basis. And here's the monthly graphs of how much I've been reading, and it also produces weekly graphs and daily logs as well. Well, I think if you want to gamify this habit, this application is the way. And I think the other thing is to hack your brain, your dopamine release system with this thing. That, for example, when you do a certain achievement, a tiny little thing, feel really happy about yourself, give yourself your room to feel happy, to enjoy it, and encourage yourself. And your brain reward pathways will take it as its own game and will reward you when you are achieving something. You're reading a couple of pages, then it's rewarding you, and you will not be able to get out of it. Now, the third thing, James Clear in his book Atomic Habits defines the cycle of habits as 4 stages, which includes cue, craving, action, and reward. Now, out of the whole thing, one of the most important things that reassures that you will repeat a certain action, it is the reward. If you are being rewarded for whatever you do, you will certainly come back to do it again. Now, with reading, if you spend 2 hours and at the end of the decision, you think like, oh, I read this much, I could spend this doing something else, I don't feel good about it, and I didn't learn something material about it, it's assured that you will not come back again. And you'll feel totally exhausted and you won't feel good about it. And your brain pathway will say, okay, this is obviously not what we want to do again. So when you achieve a milestone as a reader, especially if you're a newbie into the reading, then reward yourself, gift yourself for whatever it is. I remember the gift that I gave myself for the first time was that once I completed 20 books that I read within 3 to 4 months, I listed down all of them, the authors, the name of the book, and the time at which they were finished. And then I shared the whole list with my friends, and it really felt great for myself that this is who I am. This is like, it was like a approval from the society, because especially when you share it with the book lovers, well, I think nowadays everyone knows the importance of reading. So when you're sharing it with them, this is a kind of, you are getting instantly a status for yourself as a person who they can refer to when they want to know which book to read, or they have certain questions relevant to those subjects, and they're making decisions about those certain areas. So to reward myself for this year, I bought a Kindle, and it's been one of the best purchases, I think. As of now, it's been it's been like around 2 days that I'm using this, and it's been quite a lovely experience to have this around with myself. And the thing is that it's quite a nice technology. It's totally different from reading in your mobile and reading in your paperbacks, because it just gives you the feeling of a paperback book. But the nice thing about it is that it's got light in it, so if it's like dark at night, you can read without turning the lights. So it's a very nice experience. I mean, like, I wanted to get this all the time, but I didn't have a good reason, and I thought with myself that once I make this video and once I achieve the target of the number of the books that I want to read for this year, I will get this for myself and I will gift it to myself, and I did that. So I think this is going to reinforce my habit of reading, and I will certainly read more. And I suggest doing the same to you as well. So I think it all comes down to just this thing, that you must get started and read. And thank you very much for staying with me. Feel free to subscribe, like, and give a comment to the video. And until my next video, have a good time.